The opinions expressed on Plastic Fantastic are intended for educational and informational purposes only and are not meant as a diagnosis, treatment, or substitute for professional medical advice. The mention of any product, treatment, or procedure on the show does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation and is purely for the information and education of the public.
Welcome to Plastic Fantastic, a weekly show dedicated to the latest in plastic surgery, aesthetics, beauty, and wellness. Now, here are your hosts, board-certified surgeons Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
Good evening.
Good morning.
Good day.
Good afternoon.
And good morrow.
Good everything.
You know why I did good evening?
Oh, because of Halloween.
You know it.
Was that Vincent Price?
Probably, but I was trying
to
think of Boris Karloff.
Oh, Boris Karloff.
Personal favorite.
You're listening to Plastic Fantastic. Welcome back.
Welcome back with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
And Dr. Robert Silich.
Happy Halloween.
We're almost there. A couple more days, and we're going to have all the little kids running around in costume.
They celebrate Halloween in Canada?
Yeah, you better believe it.
Really?
Absolutely.
Big one, huh?
Yeah, and I think England, too. It's a Western thing.
It is a big thing in England, you're right.
Well, it's the night before All Saints Day,
Saints
right?
Day,
That's the
yeah.
original religious reason for it, and all the ghouls and evil spirits come out
I love
and dance.
I've said before I love minor holidays.
The
It's
dance
my thing.
macabre, as
Nice.
it
Very
were.
nice.
So are you going to dress up for Halloween?
I'm
That's always the
I'm
question.
always dressed
I'm always
up.
dressed.
Remember that song, Every Day is Halloween by Ministry?
No, I'll
You
have
totally
to listen.
know it.
I'm
Mikey will
know.
play it for us.
I do think I know a lot more songs than I recognize by the title. You listen to the lyrics, though, a lot more than I do.
Well, they just get into your head. I don't read into them, but
So lots of things going on in the city for Halloween.
please tell.
Well, none of which I do. Starting
Well, your
with-
kids are all older now. They don't do
Yeah,
that
I
stuff.
know.
Well, not all of them.
Well, first of all, we're coming to the end of Oktoberfest. We're going to skip right on to drinks. and
I loved
food.
Oktoberfest, by the way.
So a full month of that. But there are lots of things that are supposed to be activities like haunted houses. I think there's one in Brooklyn. Gets you into the spirit, pun intended. I think they have actual setups where you walk through haunted houses and people jump out at you and do all sorts of scary things.
Always dangerous. I'm serious. My brother decked a guy
Or you
once
could-
at the haunted
I was
house
going to
in
say,
Long
or
Branch.
you could just hang out on the subway and people will
Exactly. You want
That's
something really
pretty hard.
scary?
Yeah,
Go
right.
down to the subway these
That
days.
was a quote from the Twilight Zone. Remember, you want to see something really scary,
Oh,
and then they
yeah.
would turn around and something really scary and unexpected. Did you watch that show, the original show?
I thought it was really good and really scary.
Yeah, and
One of my
very
favorites
creative.
is Shocking, the one with William Shatner, my
Oh.
boy Kirk. It's something like Terror at 25,000 feet or something. It's about a guy who sees
In
some kind
space?
of, commercial flight, and he sees some kind of monster outside the window, and nobody believes him. And it's Shatner, and he's freaking out.
Well, you know, that's really funny because they did
Fantastic.
that when they made the movie with, there was an episode with John Lithgow,
That's the
or
one.
the segment.
That's the remake of the Shatner one.
Right, so I didn't see the Shatner one. I did see the one with John Lithgow, and it was the same thing when you
Yeah.
described it.
You're
where
pretty
there's-
Shatner deficient in my eyes. I've told you about the Trek many times.
I have to catch up. I'm still trying to catch up with all the shows from the 21st century, so going back to the 20th is going to take a little while.
Didn't
When
even
I'm
think of that.
retired, people go and play golf or do pickleball or whatever when you're retired.
You're
I'm
going to catch up?
I'm going to watch Star
You're going
Trek
to binge watch?
from
You
the
should.
1960s and the 1970s. So.
What number show is this for us, by the way? I was just thinking of that.
It is 88.
Wow.
I know. We're pushing 90. We're almost
Man.
there. I know.
When do we stop?
Never.
Anyway, well, happy
Excited about
88.
something. Happy 88. So what else do we do for October? There are all the pumpkin things. So pumpkin spice
stuff, yeah.
latte. What is it? Starbucks, all
I
those
don't-
coffee
it's
shops.
a big thing, but I don't really go for it. It's a little sweet.
Apparently they already put sweetener in it or some kind of sweetener.
Oh, yeah, it's
I
sweet.
just saw an article, speaking of sweeteners, that artificial sweeteners are somehow bad for your health and that they
No.
impair your memory.
Come on.
I didn't read the article. I
Because you
don't.
forgot.
No,
Because you're having a spice
By the
latte.
way, I don't use artificial sweeteners, so
I don't either.
can't speak to that. I am a purist when it comes to food and sweeteners. So sugar in the raw or processed, white
Nice.
confectioners, all that stuff. Honey, I love honey. Maple syrup, so lots of natural types of sweeteners.
Let's tell the listener about the honey that's good for you, right?
Well, the honey is...
There's
they
one
do-
that's really good. Is it?
Oh, you mean like what flour it comes from?
Yeah, maybe it's Manuka.
Yo no sé. What is it?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. So
You know, they
Now
actually
you sound
have...
like me. Just throw something out there and then you
it's
can't.
true. What made me think of it is, I remember when I was back in the burn unit, some of the very, very poor third world countries couldn't afford Silvadene, which is like the drug of choice for burns. And they did a study on putting honey on
Yes.
burns.
Oh, yeah, because
And
it's got
The
antibacterial.
results are the same.
Really?
Yep.
That's pretty impressive.
It's
No,
a
I
little
think-
bit difficult
to put
wound
honey.
care with honey because it's so sticky and it's
Sticks.
painful. It doesn't come off easy in the water when you have
I was
to
going to
change
say,
dressings.
so what do you do? You have to soak it?
I think they just sat in honey for a while.
Okay. Makes
You
them
know.
really sweet.
Exactly.
Well, now they also do bees venom. Well, we can talk a little bit about plastic surgery related things.
No, let's
Wound
do
healing.
Halloween. Way better.
Okay. I was just going to say that they now have bees venom for facial creams and stuff. Those are supposed to be anti-aging.
Mm-hmm.
Not really sure how that works. Although there is value to honey, I'm not quite sure that bees venom has been proven in double-blind, prospective, randomized, controlled studies. So there we go. There's the the scientific
It's a tough one to
aspect.
do, I guess. What's your favorite Halloween movie? Do you
know,
have one?
I just laugh at all of them. So
They're
I
funny,
can't-
right?
I think they're funny, especially the older ones. I was going to say about the pumpkins, though, is that pumpkin seeds are great. Like, I like eating pumpkin seeds, but I don't really like drinking pumpkin coffee. Again, I'm a purist, so when I drink coffee, I just want it to taste like coffee and not with all the amalgamations.
It's very good for you, though, pumpkins. In the raw, like beta carotenes and it's in the,
You mean the
squash
flesh?
family.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you carve pumpkins?
I did just the other night because I was babysitting my nieces and they wanted to carve pumpkins. And the thought
No.
of the 7-year-old walking around with a knife.
Okay.
I'm
So
like,
what
give that
kind
to
of
me, I'll do
blade
it.
do you use? Because I've seen some very fancy
No, I'm not that
schmancy-
fancy. No, I give her the magic marker. She draws the face and then I get out the big kitchen knife and just start whacking away.
Have you seen those like super stiletto looking
Yeah, amazing.
ice pick kind of things, and then they make curly cues and all
Yeah,
sorts of
but
interesting
that's
things?
like for fancy people like you. I can't do that.
I don't do any of that. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure I'm going to get a pumpkin this year. It's a lot of
You're
work.
such a party
and
pooper.
I-
Right. Don't even get a tree then. Why
No.
not? Forget the tree.
That's totally different. But I am going to get candy, which is probably not even available anymore. The problem is that I only like to get candies that I like to eat, which is basically none. So I always
I got
get
a lot
chocolate.
of candy for the office. You didn't indulge in any of that stuff?
I like chocolate.
I bought a ton of it.
Well, I mean, candy as in sugar candies. The Swedish snakes or Swedish
Fish.
fish.
Jesus. What is your deal? Come
what
on.
What are the most popular candies? They should have like the top 10.
Well, there's
Candy
like
corn.
there's big camps of candy. Like some people are like chocolate people. Some people are the sour people. They like all those
sweet and
tangy,
sour.
stuff. So anyway, you're listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
And Dr. Robert Silich.
You could email us about this. And by the way, that reminds me, we're going to finish our email responses.
Yes.
We didn't do that last time. You could email us at plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com. And you can find this podcast. God knows why you would want to. But if you do,
There are people who listen to us. I've
that's
heard
because
from,
I send it to them.
No,
I
I've
send it
had-
to the same 10 people every day.
I've had people who are not on your email list who have told me
Really?
that they hear me and us and that they listen to
That's
us.
funny.
So the word is getting out.
Yeah.
It took us 88 episodes, but here we are.
Wow. Anyway, you could find us on Spotify and Spreaker and
iHeartMedia.
YouTube, right? They block some of our music on YouTube, but
It's very infrequent.
but we're
I
on
think
there.
it's
You could
usually in
find us.
Russia that there are some very specific
Typical.
ideas about what's allowed and what's not over there. So not to cast aspersions on any particular country, but we're not familiar with all the laws and regulations in all the countries of the world, nor do we intend to be. So we welcome the feedback from Google and all those people who keep track of those things. So today's show is actually called The Witching Hour because I
Right.
thought that would be appropriate and it would sort of cross over between some of the witchy results that we see from plastic surgery.
Well, let's jump right in and say, let's talk about the witch's chin deformity. I always love that.
Oh, yes.
Patients love it when you point that out to them, too. You say, oh, yes, that's a witch's chin deformity.
That's
So
probably
they're-
insulting to
Totally.
witches. And
Well, I think it's insulting to your poor patient. Anyway, so
it's
for the
insulting
listener,
to everyone.
it is. Everyone involved gets insulted.
and not involved.
There is
Just get
something
involved.
known as the witch's chin deformity. It's from the stereotypical caricature of a witch with that long protruding chin. I guess you could really say it's a form of ptosis, right? It's a form of chin ptosis.
Yeah, it's
where
soft
your-
tissue ptosis. Yeah.
Your soft tissue of your chin sags.
Anything that sags is ptotic, right? So you can
Yeah,
use that
exactly.
word.
Eyelids, breasts, abdomen. You're right. True. So a ptotic chin, and we fix it and we reduce it. Now, most of the time we're trying to build up a chin, but there are some times when a chin is too prominent, which we call witch's chin deformity. It's mainly seen in women. It's funny. It's not seen in men. Maybe that's a warlock's chin.
Yes.
deformity.
You have to
Yes.
use the appropriate gender.
See?
It's actually not that easy to fix, though, because
It's not. And there's no one way to fix it, which means it's not easy to fix, right?
Right. And there are multiple ways of addressing it. Like with everything, I think that having those conversations with your patients ahead of time and telling them that you're going to try your best. And sometimes, despite all the best efforts and the best techniques, the results are not exactly what one might hope for. So there are some revisions that are sometimes necessary. So that is the typical. I don't think there's anything else as far as witches that we use for characterization of.
We also do
Female.
vampire facials. That's another good Halloween one, right?
There we go.
Check
Yeah, I
out
was
the
thinking
big
like
brain
the witch. I love that.
on-
Dr. Robert Silich.
You know it. Tell them what they want,
Well,
Olivia.
that-
Tell them about the vampire facial. Total misnomer, by the way.
Complete misnomer. First of all, we do not suck your blood, and we do not do this in the
Right.
middle of the night, and the sunlight will not affect
Right.
you.
And it's not
when
really
you
a
step
facial. I guess it's kind of a facial, I guess. I don't know.
Well, again, like with all these monikers, what exactly are they referring to? So I think that
Your face is a bloody mess.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
So anyway, the idea of it is we do something called PRP, which we talked about before, which is platelet-rich plasma. If you look at blood, it's got lots of different things in it. Red blood cells, white blood cells, plasma, platelets, all sorts of other things I don't remember. But we spin it down in a centrifuge and we separate out this clear liquid
You
gold.
did go to medical school, though.
Of course I did. Look behind you. There's
Yes,
a
I know.
diploma somewhere.
We are in a room full of diplomas.
We spin out this liquid gold, which has a very, very high content of platelets in it. And the
And growth
reason
factors,
that that's
yeah.
good is right. It carries with it growth factors. It stimulates collagen. So now the question is, how do we get it onto your face? There's a couple of ways. So we inject it, which is one way. But the big hot thing right now that everybody's doing is something called microneedling with PRP. Tell them what they want, Olivia.
Microneedling behind door number 1 is a fabulous
Yeah, it
procedure
is.
that will take you back to your younger years, rejuvenate and revitalize your skin.
Wow, you sound like that thing in Blade Runner. The off-world colonies.
Yes, that's me.
Start over
That was
again
me.
in a new life. You just sounded like it. Wow.
This
Very
is what
good.
you can win.
See, but you've seen that though. See, we're
Yes,
getting better.
absolutely.
We could talk about Blade Runner.
We can. No, I haven't seen the most recent one, but I did
see the most
original
recent one, but you better
We've
be
talked
pretty
about
up
this.
on the original.
I am pretty up
Because
on
it's
I've
very
seen it.
connected.
Yeah, okay. So I'll
Very connected.
watch that and then we'll come back to it. But
All right.
before we go for a
No.
quick break, I want to
Oh.
tell them what microneedling is.
Can't we just do a straight
Which is-
show? No commercials?
We have
Okay.
to take a commercial.
Okay,
We'll
go
take it.
ahead.
But you know what? Let's just do one break, 2 segments.
Oh, nice.
Would you like that?
So do we get an extra 5 minutes now?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm in the middle of talking about microneedling.
Talk about
I'm on a roll.
microneedling, you bloodsucker. Do it.
One of the things that people don't realize is that microneedling is actually what creates that bloodied effect on the face. So when we do microneedling, we use a very special device. This is not the at-home technique, those rollers that are advertised and are sold online. Very different. It does have tiny little needles that penetrate through the skin. And when they do that, they create minuscule channels within the skin that allow for the PRP to be delivered transdermally or through the skin down to the layer that they need to be active at. The skin is actually the largest organ in the body. That's one of the questions that we sometimes like to pimp people with. Skin has a very important function, which is protection of all the other organs in the body and the deeper layers. So you really need to pass through the skin in order to deliver PRP. Painting things on the skin generally, unless there's some delivery mechanism, will not be very effective. So the PRP, as Dr. Silich was saying, is that liquid that is platelet-rich plasma that has all the growth factors, that's enriched in all of those very important ingredients that promote collagen and elastin production, which are the two main constituents of youthful skin. And so when you paint it on the face after you've created these little channels, the PRP actually penetrates into the skin, and that is how the effect is produced. So we don't use blood to paint that on the face. The red blood cells are the ones that become apparent because of those tiny little channels that are created with the microneedling. So it's a product of the microneedling that brings out the tiny little blood cells to the surface. And the PRP is, Rob was saying, either injected under the skin or painted on the skin after the microneedling so that it can then permeate through the skin. Great advantages of this are that it does produce some really significant results in terms of improving overall skin tone, reducing fine lines and wrinkles, increasing the elasticity of the skin with the collagen deposition, so you get some tightening. This is not a surgical tightening. It doesn't come close to what we can achieve with, say, a facelift or any other kind of surgical procedure on the face and neck, but it does give you some really great great results intermittently between those surgical procedures. The other thing is that it's adjustable, so you can do a more superficial treatment or a deeper one. And one of the best things is that unlike lasers and the radiofrequency devices, which have a heating component, this does not incur any kind of thermal damage to the skin. So it's very well tolerated by patients of all different skin types, Asian, Hispanic, Black. You don't have to worry about the types of potential complications that you might see with
because
lasers.
with skin resurfacing, that's always a big deal with lasers. So with the advent of microneedling, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and it works really well. So a lot of patients are on Retin-A, so we have them stop that ahead of time because Retin-A is actually very caustic to the skin, and you can't really do both at the same time.
You got to be careful in the sun.
You have to be careful in the sun after. So you stop the Retin-A, you come in, we put some numbing cream on, we draw your blood as the numbing cream works, we spin the blood down, we get that platelet-rich plasma, and then we'll do the microneedling with the PRP and then allow your skin to just settle down for a few minutes afterwards. And as you were saying, it's very important not to allow your skin to be in the sun. So we always encourage patients to bring in a hat. You can't put anything else on your skin right after the procedure, so you can't put foundation on or cover up or anything. So you're walking around looking like a Halloween.
They're a little red.
Yeah, depending again on how deeply the procedure was done, but you're definitely going to have some redness to the skin. You're going to look at least as if you were out in the sun for too long.
But it's gone like in 24 hours.
Yeah, and
amazing.
And again, the next day you can put on cover up. So if you really need to go out and do stuff like trick or treating, you can do that. I find it amazing though that so few people in New York ever really notice what's going on around them.
Well, that's New York, right? You're walking down the street. Oh, there's a naked guy.
So, yeah, I mean,
right? It's like, oh,
maybe
whatever.
that would
All
make
right,
people
there's
like
a naked
turn.
guy.
But like, funky dressings on their faces, bizarre clothing. Nobody really cares. It's like
It's really true.
People on stilts or whatever. I think it's almost like a carnival.
It's like a circus.
It is. We're in a big
Hey,
circus.
there's a bearded lady.
Not too far from the office, they shut down one of the streets and they have trick-or-treating for the kids. And it's really great if they have a nice day, especially.
Really?
Yeah. So they shut it down to cars and it's just a sea of kids running around.
Where is it?
And
Do you know?
adults. 78th, I think, or 70.
I'll bet you my little nieces know about it. They
I'm sure
probably
they do.
case the joint knowing those two.
Well, the funny thing is that I was going out and I was walking on Park and all of a sudden there's a swarm of people. And the funny thing, of course, is that the parents also get dressed up in some cases.
Okay. You know I have a feeling about this, right? I'm not, you know
And
what?
then you
it's not
wonder,
even
like-
worth it. I'm not even going to talk about it.
And then you wonder, like, excuse me, but
Yeah.
I don't think this is really what you're
Right.
supposed to be wearing when you're
Come
just
on.
accompanying your kids.
Exactly.
They're clearly trying to one-up the children. But if you just want to get a sense of what goes on the Upper East Side, it's a good place.
Do they do that ahead of Halloween, or we're talking about it's
Just on
Halloween?
Halloween proper. Last year, I think it was on a Sunday maybe, or I
Right.
can't remember.
Yeah, it's
exactly
on
the day.
Monday this year.
It's Monday, which may be different. A lot of people really go above and beyond in terms of decorating their houses, though. There's a house that has the It clown,
Oh, that thing is scary.
and it's animated.
Oh,
So it's talking and it's moving.
Can't believe
and
no
its
one stole
eyes
it.
on. Well, it's behind a gate. I guess they could climb over the gate and try to grab it and run off with it. I mean,
well, they do that
I'm not sure.
with humans. Why wouldn't they do it with a mannequin? That's kind of cool looking.
Abduct them.
Boy, that's a scary movie.
One of the things that we try not to make our patients look like is
A clown.
Some of those. The Joker, with the perma smile, that sort of bizarre disfigurement.
I've seen the Joker look,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for it.
We have patients who come in and who will say to us, I just want to look normal. I want to look natural. I want to look better, but I don't want to look like I was done. I don't want to look, scary or bizarre.
Right.
I'm sure that there's some people who want to look scary and bizarre. We may have discussed this at some other point in time. The woman who wanted to look like a cat and had her eyes done. Well, there's the cat eye. And
There
then
are
that-
some strange things out
that
there.
brow lift
Got to be
thing.
really careful.
where you pull the corner of the eye out. So brow lifts. Well, tell us a little bit about brow lifts. When are they good and when are they indicated?
So the
What can you
brow
do
that we're talking about are the eyebrows. Do we have time to do this?
Absolutely.
If I had known that I could buy time with you, forget it.
Just
Anyway,
this once because it's in Halloween.
brow lifts, we do a lot less of them now with the advent of Botox, but the brow we're talking about is the eyebrow. And you get, as we talked about before, we started the show off with something called ptosis. You get brow ptosis, where the brows sink down. So you can do a open brow lift, which is an incision up in the hairline, so you don't see it, or an endoscopic brow lift, rather, where the incisions are again up in the hairline, but it's done through something called an endoscope, where you look inside and you can work on some of the muscles of the forehead. And between the eyebrows, there's a muscle there called the glabella, which is one of the muscles that give you those 11 lines, which nowadays we usually freeze with Botox.
Corrugator, which is what that corrugated box concept
I
comes from.
see. Look at you.
We're going to go to
so
boxes and
smart.
food that comes in boxes in a minute.
Yeah, please.
And drinks that come in boxes.
We got to get
too.
off this because it's way too technical right now. Anyway, so just did a brow lift this morning. Easy operation, very quick.
Generally, for older patients, though, you don't really need to do that
I think it's overdone.
Younger.
It's one of the most overdone operations, in addition to the D-plane facelift. But
which shall remain nameless.
I digress.
And digest.
And I digest it, too. Anyway, so brow lift, I think it's overdone, and it's probably overdone because it is so simple to do. But in the right indications,
you do have to know your
right
anatomy,
patient,
though, because you can always get into trouble by operating on the face.
You can get in
when
trouble
you don't.
anywhere. True.
Doing anything.
But that's a particularly technically easy operation. The key to that operation is the indication. If you pick the right person that needs it, it's a home run every time, and a great, easy procedure.
The reason that I was asking about is because some of these younger patients who come in, and a lot of this stuff has to do with those models and influencers or just people who get paid to popularize certain procedures. And you'll have very young patients who make themselves look as though they had the corners of their eyes pulled out or the brow pulled out, and then they'll come in and be like, oh, I really want that look, when it's really quite unnatural. And once that fad goes away and passes, then you have to correct it. And sometimes it's much more difficult to correct. You can't just reverse things.
Right. They do have these
easily.
things called frownies. Have you ever seen those? Do you know what those are? It's some company, I think that's what they're called. Anyway, it's basically a very high adhesive tape that you put on at your hairline, mainly for women or somebody with longer hair, and it repositions the brow and mimics a brow lift, and they're called frownies. And some people, I guess, use them for Halloween. I think they started mainly in Hollywood.
Oh, as part of the makeup and
but they actually sell them over the
department.
counter. You can get them in fancy.
So how do you hide them? Because they can't stick to your hair.
You put them right on the hairline.
Nothing sticks to hair,
I think it goes into the hair. Yeah, it's pretty uncomfortable.
Bizarre. Oh, nice.
I've
You
never
staple yourself.
I've
That's
never
kind
used
of the
them,
Frankenstein
but they
look.
don't look comfortable. And I know that your hair has to go over them so that you don't see the frownies.
Okay, great. I'm glad you.
But anyway,
you can keep us updated on the Halloween scene.
You're listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson
and Dr. Robert Silich. When we come back in a little bit, we're going to talk not about plastic surgery anymore.
Nice. Emails.
We are going to go through emails. We're also going to address why we're not going to talk about why we don't make people look like witches and warlocks, because that's not our thing.
We're doing a special this week, Witches and Warlocks, 10% off. Come on in. Let us have at it.
But I think that's part of the conversation that we have. I mean, I just had, regardless of what it is, you have to have those conversations with patients.
Do you want to look like a witch or a warlock?
Well, what is your aesthetic? Because
That's true. That's a good question.
Just to use the cliche, we are artists as well as physicians.
I can't believe you didn't say that in French.
Well, I could, but
I know you could.
I'm not going to. I'm still waiting for the one time when we're going to do this whole thing with me speaking in French and you can speak in
It's like every week. I got news for you. I hate to break it to you. We're already at about 50%. You're just being very well-behaved today and not breaking into French.
Well, because it's the weekend of
Halloween. They have Halloween in France.
Yes, I'm pretty
They
sure.
must.
Well, they definitely have All Saints Day afterwards. The whole Catholic tradition. Although I think there are fewer and fewer people who are religious in France. I saw a statistic once that showed, in general, all the European countries where the Catholic Church was so entrenched in society and everyday lives, and how that's become less and less, and how it has lost quite a bit of its influence. But that's for another time. If you would like to email us, please email us at plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com, and we will respond to all emails, even though it may take us a little while because we are very busy trick-or-treating.
Yep.
Getting candy.
Buying you the right candy. We're going to do some emails when we come back from the break, though. I think that's important.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to be right back.
Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson is coming right back.
Possibilities are all around us. Everywhere we look, we see opportunity in unexpected places. And when we share our knowledge, vision, and connections, we turn great ideas into action in communities all around the world that we call home. Like transforming an old bus to feed hungry children, or providing life-saving equipment to those who need it most. From fighting disease to rebuilding schools, together, we can make real change happen. We're Rotary. We are people of action. Get involved today at Rotary.org/action.
I'm Shanola Hampton. Every day, millions of people face hunger. Today, I will share with you some of their experiences. I'm stuck between paying for medications or paying for food. John from Maine. After paying my bills, I can buy groceries. It's sad to say, food comes last. Alice from Oregon. I thought pantries were for less fortunate people, but anybody could be less fortunate in a day or even a second. Claire from Virginia. The Feeding America network of food banks helps provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. No one should have to worry where their next meal will come from. Together, we can end hunger. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Never miss an episode. Download Plastic Fantastic on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, or wherever major podcasts are found. Simply search Plastic Fantastic. Now, here are board-certified surgeons Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
Welcome back to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
And Dr. Robert Silich.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween and happy
all you ghosts and
All
goblins
Saints
out
Day
there, and happy.
for the next day.
What is Halloween?
It's All Hallows Eve.
All Hallows Eve.
Yes.
Wow,
yeah, that's why there's a little apostrophe in there.
Apostrophe.
That's right.
Yeah. You're not feeling very French today.
I'm not. No, I'm going to refrain.
All right.
Well, we'll see. When we start talking about food, I'm going to have to talk about courgettes.
There you go. Courgette is a zucchini, right?
Yes.
Speaking of Halloween, remember the Addams family? Whenever Morticia Addams would speak French, Gomez would go crazy and start kissing her arm.
No, I had no idea. She spoke French?
She would break into like you do, like a French word, and he would just give her that look and like get completely
that's funny.
Overwhelmed with love.
Wait, so is that where, in A Fish Called Wanda, when John Cleese has the little thing with...
No, I thought it was the guy who speaks Italian, not French.
No,
right? Didn't Otto? Who was it?
It's Otto. I'm sorry. Yes.
She would break into Italian and he would get all turned on, right?
Yes. Or the other way around. One of them speaks something.
Such a good movie.
Other one, yes. And says like just random words.
So funny.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Like I do.
In Halloween.
My fake Italian words I do with my nieces. Right?
But you're not in the bedroom.
No, it's totally different. But I'll break out into something Italian.
Different.
And when they were little, they would like answer me in this fake Italian
But
thing.
you actually have Italian derivation.
Yeah, but I don't really speak
you can just say some words, mozzarella and all that.
Yeah, I could say something like that.
It's very important to know a word for food so that you can pronounce them
But I grew up
properly.
with words that they're not even close to the Italian words. You know what I mean? Like
because of the accent?
Yeah, it's so strange when you grow up in Italian-American households have very different pronunciations for things that you go to Italy, you're like, what are they talking about? Anyway, want to do some emails, Olivia?
Let's do some emails. Do you have them?
All right, here's one. Okay, what are your favorite? We did this one last week. What are your favorite walks and runs in the city? We did that one. Okay.
Isn't it nice, by the way, that we've had such nice weather? I mean, it was really warm.
The last 2 days were kind of gloomy. Very Halloween-y.
It was, yes. But the fog was crazy. That sort of reminded me of that whole like London fog and Jack the Ripper and people lurking about.
See?
When I woke up in the morning, it was so foggy, I literally couldn't see anything out the window.
It was amazing.
It was like we were in the clouds.
It was
we were
really
literally
neat.
in the clouds.
Well, you live up pretty high.
Yeah, I'm very high. I'm high up in the clouds.
High up in the clouds.
I'm on cloud 9.
That's how I feel with you right now. I'm on cloud
Every
9.
day.
And I don't want to come down. Here we go. Footwear. Interesting.
Footwear. Ooh,
what do you guys wear when you were in the operating room?
Comfortable shoes. Things that you can...
What do you wear? You're a clog person. I've seen you wear your clogs.
Yeah, and they're black leather patent so that you can rinse them off easily.
I wear Birkenstocks.
That was the original. Oh, you do? You own Birkenstocks?
I got them on right now.
But there's no toe to it. They're supposed to be closed. I don't pay attention.
No, those are the
to
open
your feet.
kind. No, I have the closed kind.
Oh, they're multiple. Hey, look at that.
Yeah. You didn't know that?
We're
Oh, yeah.
We're comparing our, Birkenstocks are kind of clogs.
You mean like the sandalies? No, I think
Yeah,
those
the
are, I got to say,
sandalies with
those
the
are,
little
I'm not a
clip.
fan of those.
They're
yeah,
very
that's cool.
similar because you can pull your feet out and you can move around and stuff.
But it's a good
Comfort.
question because it's a big deal. We sit a lot for some of our operations, a lot of the face
Should I
ones.
say
We
that
sit down.
that I wear my Prada 110 millimeter
You could say it.
seal?
but you don't. Do you wear those in the OR? No,
I don't.
come
But I
on.
could say that. Then it would sort of match the whole...
We do sit a lot in the operating room, but a lot of people, most surgeons stand. There are lots of things that surgeons get after years and years of standing. They get a lot of varicose veins.
Speak for
They
yourself.
lose their arches a lot, which is why we usually wear clogs and those kind of shoes.
Because they have little arch supports.
And people get a lot of back pain and neck pain because they're usually hunched over, bending over the patient, looking.
I think that's probably
into the
true
incisions
for
and stuff.
surgeons, not just plastic surgeons, but cardiac surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, the reconstructive plastic surgeons who spend a lot more time in the operating room for longer cases. I mean, even if we have a full day's worth of cases, we still have breaks in between because you and I are the lightning surgeons. And
Exactly.
we operate in the blink of an eye. And
We did a case on the break. Might not have noticed. It's very quick.
You're in, you're out, you're done. One of the things that nobody talks about is how long is the surgery going to take, doctor? It's actually quite fascinating when you find out that there's certain surgeons who are perfectly well qualified, but will take 5, 6, 8 hours for a
Huge
case.
discrepancy among surgeons.
That will take us 1 or 2. So it's not good or bad. It's just different.
Yep.
And it's definitely longer. I think for those surgeons, the toll is probably much more cumulative, and it definitely is something more difficult for them to recover from because you don't have those breaks.
You
in
and I are
between.
also a little bit biased where I think we
We're
both
very biased.
believe that speed is good for the patient as well. I mean, it's not a race and you don't get points for doing it quickly.
Yeah.
But the less time you're under anesthesia,
yeah, I think that's a primary.
the less time the tissues are handled and abused and kind of beat up and
well,
traumatized.
not abused, but
Well, you know what I mean.
traumatized.
You know,
yes.
the quicker you get in, the
Surgerized.
quicker you can get out, and I think the quicker people
Yeah, I
tend
mean,
to
there is
heal
a whole
faster.
inflammatory, just to bring it back to basic science.
You're always
again.
going science on
I
me.
got
I'm
it
just trying to say,
because-
you're in, you're out. It's easy. Come on.
You're in, you're out, it's easy. But
so smart.
there is an inflammatory component to trauma, which is what surgery is. And so that also has to do with the techniques that we use and the instruments that we use and all the number of times that you have to cut something or do the dissection and the sutures and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the list goes on and on. But it does amount to a difference in how much inflammation there is. And with inflammation, there is more swelling and then a prolonged recovery. So all those things tie in. So there is an advantage to having a surgery that is not exceedingly long.
Right.
And then, of course, I think part of it also has to do with your surgeon's experience, because if you've been there, you've done that, you know what you're doing, you go much more quickly. And I'd like to give a plug to our team because it is a team effort and our team is fabulous. Our anesthesiologist is terrific.
Dr. Jane Recant,
And our surgical team, the operating room nurse, Jay.
Jay Salinas,
Who is fabulous.
who we've had on the show before. We should get him back.
We should get him back. Totally agree. And the circulator, and then the nurses in the
Gabby,
recovery room,
Bella,
and Cassie, all the
Julie
nurses
Cook.
and Julie who work with us and do the private duty. Julie does a private duty recovery, as does Cassie. So all of those things come into effect and into play, and they really, I think, contribute to a much better experience for the patient and then a better recovery. And after all, a happy patient is what we're looking for. A happy, safe, and better looking patient.
Why don't you tell the listener what private duty is? They may not know.
It's kind of like the private dancer.
I'm here, private dancer. Tina Turner.
I am here. Did you
Dancer
see
for
that-
money.
Private dancer, a dancer for money. Do what you want me to do.
We have to go on a quick aside here. They made a
Oh, my
Barbie.
favorite kind.
It's not food, but
By
it's
the way,
close.
yeah, what happened?
They made a Barbie doll with. Oh, I
Oh,
know
I
if
thought you were
this
talking
is-
about the Barbie movie with my poor boy Ryan Gosling.
Oh no, we have to talk about that too. And we have time, by the way. But
Yeah, this single break thing could work to my disadvantage. I feel like now I'm here longer.
well, don't forget about the Barbie movie. But
All right, go ahead.
they made
Barbie
a Barbie
doll.
doll with
Right.
Tina Turner, and it sold out immediately.
As it
was, like,
should.
completely with the great hair that
Love
she
her.
has and
She's
everything.
the best.
They also had that Broadway show that was apparently really
Tina.
fabulous.
Great book
Private
on her called
Duty.
I, Tina.
Oh, really? Like iRobot kind of thing, or?
I guess, but it's a while now, but it was a biography of her. I think Kurt Loder wrote it, the guy from MTV. She's wonderful. What a great story and what a performer,
I didn't
man.
actually get to see the.
She
the
used to
play.
sing with Mick
Maybe
and the
I should-
Stones, man.
Yeah. Oh, she's got a terrific
So cool.
voice and a stage presence and everything.
Amazing.
So, private duty nurse is not your private dancer, although I guess theoretically, if
You could ask him to
they're-
dance.
if they're multi-talented,
Right.
So what they do is that they will escort the patient home. Pretty much everybody realizes, but may not think of it when they're booking surgery. If you have anesthesia, you can't go home by yourself. You need to have somebody come pick you up from the recovery room, from your doctor's office, and escort you home. So they will do that for you, and then they will stay with the patient anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. Although we've had some nurses who only stay for a couple of hours. It really depends on the patient and the surgery and how long they need to recover for. And they will tend to your every need. They will anticipate what you might need. We see this a lot primarily with patients who've had surgery on their faces or their eyes, where there might be some swelling, where they can't see very clearly, and where keeping their head up is extremely important. So you don't want the patient bending down and doing things like tying their shoes, etc. And so the private duty nurse will come home. They will know and remind you of all the things that you shouldn't be doing, and also help you keep you comfortable. So they'll give you some ice compresses. They'll give you your pain medication on time. They'll help you walk around, do all those great things. And it's really fabulous. I think for the patients, a lot of them don't necessarily feel like they need it. I've never had a patient have a private duty nurse and tell me after the fact that they regretted having them.
Yeah, if anything, they want them to stay longer.
Yeah, exactly. And in many cases they can. And if they do need the private duty nurse to stay, as with any sort of nursing type of setup, they won't stay for 36 hours straight, because it's very, very intense as far as management and attention for the nurse to make sure that they are able to offer the kind of care that they're supposed to. So they will bring in a different nurse to do the subsequent shift. And I think they usually do like 8 to 12 hours. So that's private duty nursing, a very important part of the recovery and also of our team. We weren't talking about that, though. We were talking about candy and Halloween.
Yeah, that's okay. I like it. We didn't get to food and drink yet.
We didn't. But is there another email question? We talked about shoes that we wear.
Free time. How do both of you choose?
Oh, well, there we go.
To use it.
Food and wine.
Do you have a ton of stuff to get done when you're not in the office, or do you carve out time to relax? Never.
Yes,
Are
always.
you guys procrastinators or organized and efficient by nature?
Both. You can procrastinate and be organized. That's the whole point of being
Isn't that
organized,
beautiful?
is that you can procrastinate.
And then the last one, I love this one. Are you morning or night people?
Everything. I'm a 24/7.
You kind of have to be a morning person in medicine, I have to say, even though you're a night person.
What was
you know,
that
because you got to get up
movie?
early.
Animals of the Night. What was that?
Recent movie, the Tom
There were
Ford
two-
directed
yeah, there
one
was
with
that
Jake
one.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
That's good.
What was it called, though? And then there was the other one with Nastasia Kinski.
Nocturnal Animals.
Nocturne. That's the more recent one.
Right.
And then what was the Kinski one? Something about also animals. Remember, it was like a picture of her and she turned into a panther or something like that.
Oh.
That was an old movie.
Not cat people.
Maybe. Can't remember now. That was
Putting
that
out
was-
fires with gasoline. That's David Bowie.
Yes.
He did the song to that. Very cool.
Maybe it was cat people. Well, you know,
I
it's
don't
got
know,
it's
man.
got animals and nighttime and cats.
Could be.
Whose eyes shine at night. They have very special lenses.
You still didn't tell me your favorite
Food, wine.
Halloween movie or your favorite scary movie.
You know, I saw some movies that I thought were going to be really scary, and they weren't. I saw the It ones, which I thought were just stupid. Like
The Stephen King ones?
I've never been scared of clowns. So
Really?
no.
Oh, I have.
Yeah, people who have bad experiences, I think it kind of marks them. And I think when you're young, obviously, I think that's what's probably not great about Halloween is if you're very young and there's a really freaky scene or image, then it can probably
Right.
get into your head. And as funny as some of these things look for us, I think maybe for some younger kids, you want to send the parents in first to check things out, make sure that they're appropriate for the younger generation. Why? What's your favorite Halloween movie? Halloween? Was that? I mean, I remember
I never
seeing
liked
Halloween.
those slasher movies. I always thought they were stupid. Like Mike Myers, I thought was like an idiot. Like whatever. Yeah, you're scary.
Didn't
Wow.
work for you?
It's very simple. It's The Hunger with David Bowie. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Quite
Is that a Halloween
possibly-
movie? I may have to watch it this
It's
weekend.
about vampires, so I would count it. Quite possibly the greatest opening sequence in all of cinema.
Really?
I'm not kidding.
The
I know that's a
Hunger.
big
Do you
statement.
think I can find it on...
Yeah, so it opens up with
Hulu
the
or-
Bauhaus song, Bela Lugosi's Dead.
Oh, yes.
And
It's a
the
great song.
first great song, and the first 5 minutes of the movie is... Problem with that is the rest of the movie kind of, it tapers off. Like, it stays great, but after like the first 45 minutes, it's just nothing compared to that opening sequence, and you're just like, okay, this is fantastic.
So then you can like just fall asleep and then wake up at the end
Kind
for the
of.
credits.
Like the premise of it is...
That's quite
no,
the
there's
plot
another
for it.
very, very controversial scene in the middle of
Oh,
it.
don't tell me. Don't
I
tell
won't.
Me. David Bowie acts in it? Or
It's David Bowie, Catherine Deneuve, and
Oh.
Susan Sarandon, when she was much younger.
Wow.
Anyway, I want to say like
Sounds like a
1979, 80, 81, like
I
around
wasn't
then.
even born.
It is a classic. You weren't born. The idea is vampires live forever, right? Or a very, very long time.
Is that the...
Yeah.
Okay.
So they catch up to this
I thought they just,
vampire
like,
couple.
live at night and then they go to sleep during the day because
Oh, that's interesting.
the sunlight kills them.
They do kind of
Garlic,
sleep
something
during
with
the
garlic.
day. Anyway, the premise is they catch up to this vampire couple, David Bowie and Catherine Deneuve, who live in this magnificent New York townhouse.
Oh, they're vampires.
Yes.
Oh.
And at the time, it was current day Manhattan, and it traces back their life through the centuries. But he now is finally slowly dying, so to speak, as his vampire whatever is fading, and she's trying
Mantra?
to figure out a way to save him. And I guess the
Oh,
answer
so it's
is
like a
it
love
doesn't
story
happen,
kind of
right?
thing.
Like they
Okay.
live for a couple
Spoil-
centuries, and
spoiler
then it
alert.
kind of ends. Yeah, I'm not ruining anything, but the
Okay.
opening sequence is just terrific. How they go out at night and how they try and hunt down people.
So
and
this
stuff.
is obviously way before
It's a great
the
movie.
whole vampires versus werewolves
No.
and all that kind of stuff.
And it's directed by Tony Scott, who is Ridley Scott's brother. And it's terrific.
Has he done other stuff? I don't even...
Yeah, he did all those Denzel Washington action movies, I think he did. But anyway, you got to rent it. Your kids will love it. It looks so cool because David Bowie's in it, of course. How could it not? The reason that they know that they're dying or whatever is that they can't sleep anymore. So
Uh-oh.
there's this whole insomnia thing worked into it.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
whenever I watch
That
it, I'm
might-
like, oh my God.
Whenever you
I'm
wake up
this
at 4
guy.
o'clock
Right,
in the morning
exactly.
and you can't
I'm
fall back
David Bowie
asleep.
now and I can't sleep. And everybody was smoking back then. So
Oh,
he's,
yes,
you know how
that's
he's
very different.
smoking in every scene. And that's
Right,
cool.
Right.
He looks
Because nobody
cool.
does that anymore. So,
Oh,
and his
man.
hair is perfect.
Hair is
probably,
perfect,
that
exactly.
most
Like the
importantly.
Werewolf of London.
Yes.
Good one.
absolutely.
Oh, boy.
Well, guess what? We haven't had a chance to talk about food and wine, but there's
Really?
always next episode.
Oh, are we done?
Yeah, we are. Time flies when
Like
you're
the
having fun.
snows of yesteryear.
Of Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
You've been listening to The Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich.
Dr. Olivia Hutchinson, thank you for listening.
We are here to debunk, demystify, and educate the public.
Maybe
and
this
hopefully
week we're trying to mystify.
just mystify, remystify,
Yeah.
and rebunk if there's
Rebunk it. I don't even know about that.
Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week when it's going to be November already.
Wow.
So happy Halloween, everyone.
You've been listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson. Produced by Mike Scheck. This is Bill Eugene speaking. Got a question? Email plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com. And be sure to listen right here every week for another episode of Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.